I'm Stephen Shoemaker, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite author of all time, Kurt Vonnegut. First, I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about Kurt's life and his early beginnings. Kurt was born in 1922 in Indianapolis, Indiana. The place he was born would play a role in some of the content of his writing. Many authors of his time were writing about the East Coast and city life, while Kurt was busy writing about interstellar space and suburban America. So that's just a side note. But he grew up during the Great Depression. His father was an architect. He owned an architectural business, which he lost as a result of the Great Depression. After that, his family was basically plunged into poverty. They lost their house. They lost everything. Kurt was removed from private school, so he had to go to public school. Not long after that, he began to use drugs and alcohol fairly heavily, which sometimes in some of his novels he'll sort of sprinkle those themes in as sort of background ideas of certain stories. After high school, Kurt attended Cornell University from 1940 to 1942. In 1942, Kurt left school to join the Army, and ironically, in 1943, he was sent back to school to study engineering by the Army. In 1944, when Kurt Vonnegut was on leave, his mother had committed suicide via an overdose, and this also happened to be on Mother's Day. It's events like these in Kurt's life that are going to sort of set the tone of his underlying pessimism. So after that, the Army had sent Kurt to Europe to fight. He was involved in the Battle of the Bulge and was actually captured in battle by the Germans. While he was a POW, he worked in a slaughterhouse in Dresden, Germany. There he actually witnessed the Allied firebombing of the city, which killed almost everybody in it. They used incendiary bombs, so everything was on fire. Kurt witnessed a lot of death and destruction during those times. So, which sort of sets the tone for the genre that he wrote about, which many would classify as satirical science fiction. I wouldn't say that he was necessarily, and I don't think anybody would, that he was necessarily fully satirical, at least not in the eyes of satirical writers of his time who were writing mostly just about politics and current times. Nobody was writing about the past or the future. They seemed to be too abstract. Whereas Kurt was so heavy into science fiction, even though Kurt really didn't view himself as a science fiction writer. I think what he more tried to do was explain his grievances that he had based on his perception of the world, and portraying that in a way that people wouldn't be so off-put by it. So basically, he didn't use science fiction for the purposes of the adventure of science fiction. He used science fiction as sort of a cover-up, and saying, "Hey, here's what's happening," and putting it in a way that people could understand. Oh, what happened? Anyway, I think a major theme in science fiction in the 20th century was definitely the threat of mechanism, or humans being taken over by machines. That was always a widely used theme, and Kurt was definitely not an exception to that rule. His first novel in 1950, titled it was titled Player Piano, and it was about workers being taken over by machines. And I mean, that was in the 50s. These things were so science fiction But now, we look at self checkouts and things like that, and it's just like, okay, maybe he wasn't too far off. Um, Another one of his underlying themes was he often used crude language and sexuality. So he wasn't afraid to put his own personality into his writings, and he definitely, it was his personality that made him so popular. I mean, the guy was so pessimistic. He would just say, I mean, some people, some critics have even compared his books to Hustler magazine as propaganda, and his response to that was, I don't see anybody being able to masturbate to Slaughterhouse-Five. So, I mean, the guy was as far as being personable goes, he may not have been at the top of his society at the time, but that personality definitely did create a lot of his popularity. Especially when it came to books like Slaughterhouse-Five. Um, I guess I could talk a little bit about that book. Slaughterhouse-Five was a New York Times bestseller for 16 weeks in a row when it originally came out. Um, I'm not sure what the year that it actually came out was, but for me, Slaughterhouse-Five was actually the first book that I had completely finished from start to the very end, and I actually did it for an English project in a junior year of high school, and I mean it definitely opened my eyes up to the possibility of being able to read an author's work that was that I thought was entertaining, basically, and it definitely got me into more adult literature, and um, it's basically Slaughterhouse-Five is about a a young boy named Billy Pilgrim who joins the army in World War II, just like Kurt Vonnegut. He gets captured as a POW and works on a slaughterhouse, just like Kurt Vonnegut. And I think he sort of uses Slaughterhouse-Five to describe um, and as sort of as an outlet of the experiences and things that he witnessed in war. Um, in this book, Slaughterhouse-Five, after the Battle of the Bulge, this character, Billy Pilgrim, um, begins to sort of shuttle back and forth between different times of his life. So he no longer experiences life linearly. Um, every time he goes to sleep, or every time he gets knocked out, or every time a large explosion happens, all of a sudden he's 45 years old, and then he's 20 years old, and so the book has a lot of different concepts about linear time. So that's definitely the science fiction aspect of it. But at one point in the story, Billy Pilgrim um, gets captured by these aliens, and they take him to their planet um, and put him in a zoo. And then where that, like I said, where that sexuality comes in is Kurt Vonnegut then writes in that this character Billy Pilgrim is also accompanied in the zoo by a young porn star named Montana Wildhack. So the way that his writing is just it's something that you never seen before, and it's something that people don't um, the kinds of writing that people just don't always see. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is some of the awards that he won. In 1973, he won the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Representation with his book Slaughterhouse-Five. Um, but he didn't just receive awards for his novels. As a matter of fact, in 1960, he received an award from the Writers Guild of America for a short TV series titled Albiederzane. Kurt lived a long career, and a lot of his philosophy was write as much as I possibly can, and then someday I'm gonna die, and that was that philosophy is definitely characteristic of him. and at age 84 he did die, and that was in 2007. His legacy didn't stop there, though. Actually, as a matter of fact, there was a collaboration of short stories titled Armageddon in Retrospect. And so in 2009, these works actually had received the Audie Award in writing. So, um, it was just even after he was dead, he was still publishing books. They were still winning awards. He published two more books after that. One later that year in 2009, another in 2011. So, I mean, this guy's a literary powerhouse. He's nonstop, and I definitely suggest that you pick up Slaughterhouse-Five, you pick up Breakfast of Champions, and you definitely pick up Cat's Cradle, because these books are gonna change your perspective of writing if you haven't read any of his works, hopefully. But thank you guys for your time, and like I said, I hope you check him out. Thank you.